What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPapa, and for the last 13 glorious months, we have been taking the top 20 singles cards from every single Sword and Shield set that has a booster box, and we've been aggregating their total value. And we've been doing that, as I said, every month, really close to the 15th of every single month. Sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, but we've been doing it on about the 15th of every single month in order to give us this beautiful line graph that you see before you right now. And the reason that I do that is because it helps us track things and how the price moves over time during different macro level environmental shifts, right? So you can see here, when we started in September, from September to October, that aggregate value was down a little bit. Then October to November, it was down a little bit more, but then really from December, January, February, March, it flattened out. And then what happened? Here at the Pokemon Center in the USA, guess what? The booster boxes for Sword and Shield started to sell out, and oh my gosh, alt arts and singles cards in the Sword and Shield space went absolutely insane. Look at that price spike. I mean, it started March, April, May, June. The price spike was absolutely crazy. And then what happened? What happened was what we had anticipated happened was obviously the FOMO died a little bit and prices started to come back down. But August to September, we noted it was down, but barely. It was down about 0.25%. And when you think about that, you have 12 different sets with booster boxes, 20 top 20 cards there. That's 240 cards. So when the average value of 240 cards is almost down 0.25%, I mean, that is basically directionally flat. So what did we say? We said, hey, listen, we knew there was going to be a spike. We knew there was going to be a drop. It's starting to flatten out, but approach it with some trepidation. And I went as far as to say, I'm still not buying anything. Like, I need to see a couple more months of flatness like we saw before in December, January, February. Well, guess what? From September to October, that aggregate top 20 singles card value is down again pretty significantly, down 3.5%. And the reason I do this is to help us keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on in these different eras at a macro level. We do this for Sword and Shield, we do it for XY, we do it for Sun and Moon, and I do it for Scarlet and Violet too. Obviously, we don't all have all 12 booster boxes yet, but I still do that to show you month-over-month comparisons. But when you look at it, there's going to be a point where the Scarlet and Violet era reaches exactly where the Sword and Shield era was when we started doing this, and so we'll be able to see how Sword and Shield reacted to those different macro level environments, right? Like when all the booster boxes of Scarlet and Violet start selling out in the Pokemon Center, we'll have data to understand what happened during the Sword and Shield space. So all of this is why we do it. And it's also really fun to talk about. We're going to look at all the individual sets and how they've moved. We're going to look at some of the big cards and how they've been moving. And this is just a really fun, really cool, informative video series that I do on the channel. Now, I also include that, listen, even though it's been up and down and all over the place, if in September of 2023 you had actually gone out and bought every single top 20 single card in the Sword and Shield set that comes from booster boxes, guess what? You would still be up 15.2%. Yes, there have been some wild things that have gone on in the hobby since then, but even with all of the craziness, you'd still be up 15.2%, which is really cool. And then not only do we look at the singles cards for all of those sets and all of those eras, we also look at the booster boxes. And this is just another slide that's going to cement what all of us know is that it is very, very hard to beat sealed collecting here in the Pokemon space if you're looking for a high degree of certainty and, a certain degree of safety. There's nothing really safe about investing in alternative investments, but sealed certainly is the safest play, if you will, in a sea of different investment vehicles in the Pokemon space. So again, same graph here, right? We started 13 months ago in September. We took the total value of those booster boxes. We aggregated it. We've been tracking them over time, and you'll see it spiked at the exact same time that the singles cards did. But guess what? It only had a nominal drop. I mean, we're talking about in July, it dropped about 2%. In August, it was down 0.75%. In September, it was down 1/3%. And now in October, it's spiking back up again, right? I just did a video series where I talked about my 10 favorite sealed Sword and Shield investments because I do think that we're getting to the phase we're about to finish up year 2 of Scarlet and Violet. And so when you think about these Sword and Shield sealed products, like they're only going to become increasingly rare. They're only going to be increasingly harder and harder to find in the secondary market. So that was why I did that video. And actually pulling this data together was kind of like the catalyst for me to do that video. So if you look, remember, we were up about 15% from September till now in the singles card space. But guess what? In the booster box space, you would be up almost 38% over that exact same time frame. So really, really interesting stuff, really wild. Again, all of us who watch this channel know that, but to see the visual representation, to see the graph over time, I think is really cool. And it's going to be fascinating to watch this graph, really over the next year. That's what I'm most excited about, again, is to keep warehousing this data and keep tracking it over time. So As I said, we're going to look at some individual cards. We're going to look at how all the individual sets moved month over month. But if you like this type of approach, if you love this data deep dive, we do this all the time for multiple sets and all kinds of fun stuff on the channel. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I got a small channel here, do a ton of work. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping me out, and I really appreciate it. So getting into the very first sets we're going to talk about, Silver Tempest and Lost Origin. And if you saw my video on Surging Sparks a couple days ago or a week ago at this point, I compared it to Lost Origin. I thought that there's a really interesting comparison if you look at the singles cards in Lost Origin, which is the number 2 from a booster box price perspective, set in Sword and Shield right now, and you compare that to what Surging Sparks is going to be when it finally comes out in November. And last month when we did this video, Lost Origin was getting hammered, right? Like the prices had been coming down for 3 consecutive months. It was almost like an outsized depreciation compared to some of the other sets. And I said, is it oversold, right? Sometimes a great set or a great product or even a great stock or a great thing can get caught up in market hype in one way or the other. It can be hype up or hype down. And I said, is Lost Origins a great set? Is it being oversold? And what do we see this month? If you look on the far right, you see all of those top 20 singles cards. There is a whole lot of green in the Lost Origin column. So it was really, really depressed there for a while. And then we said, hey, maybe it's a little bit oversold. And it looks like the market agreed with us. We've seen some strong bouncing there. And I love the fact that Giratina is a very special card at the very top. And then you have the supporter cards and the Pikachus. Like, I just think Lost Origin has a fantastic lineup. Now, Silver Tempest, I don't know if it's ever going to go out of stock at the Pokemon Center. I say this every month when we talk about Silver Tempest. Like, it just doesn't seem to go away. I would imagine that a lot of people are getting into Silver Tempest unless everybody who wanted to buy it bought it all during that hype phase when all the Sword and Shield booster boxes were selling out. I don't know if everybody just got their fill of Silver Tempest then, so I don't know if it's been an incredibly large print run. I don't know if there's just really low demand, which that doesn't, I don't know, I don't think that's it. It's got to be some combination of the two. So Silver Tempest, we're not going to know what that set is capable of until it's out of stock here at the Pokemon Center in the US, but we'll just have to wait. However, I did want to call out. So when I did this video, remember, I pulled this data on the 15th of every single month. You're going to be watching this much later than the 15th. When you do comparisons like this, it's very important to pull the data at the same time every period if you're going to be doing this for long periods of time like we are. But the Giratina has started to bounce, and when you look at it right here, you see this graph right here, okay? So you see this is the 1-year graph, and if you look all the way to the right, when it got down in that $340 range, the market went crazy. You see those light blue lines, those represent sales volumes, right? So on the far right, you see that it got down to the $240 range, right? $340 range. Why was that so hard? It got down to the $340 range, and you see a spike in the blue line, right? The market said, this is a $350 plus card. So when it got down to $340, a lot of people piled in, and the card price starts to spike here. So it'll be interesting to see if it can hold on. Again, the number 2 set in the Sword and Shield era from a booster box price right now, and certainly a top 3 chase card. So lots to love here about Lost Origin. The next 2 sets we look at, Astral Radiance and Brilliant Stars, and I think these 2 booster boxes represent some fantastic value in the Sword and Shield space right now. If you look at Astral Radiance booster boxes, I mean, yes, they're above MSRP. I understand that, but it's only $20 above MSRP. All of us can think back and say, oh, I remember when Astral Radiance booster boxes were $95, $100 a booster box. I get that. That time is behind us. Like, if you're going to be buying now, you are buying with a degree of certainty, and there's always a high price to pay for certainty, and the price that you pay is $20 over MSRP. But if you're new into the Pokemon collecting and investing space and you want some exposure to some Sword and Shield booster boxes, I think Astral Radiance presents a great value, and I think Brilliant Stars presents an even better value. When I was talking about some hot sets the other day, Brilliant Stars was one that I was talking about, and man, the lineup in Brilliant Stars is fire. You have some amazing, it's obviously a Charizard set, right? You got Umbreon in there. You got all kinds of awesome cards in Brilliant Stars. So I think there's some big values there. And the other thing too is when you look at the average of the top 20 price, it's wild to me. Like, the average of the top 20 cards in Astral Radiance is still higher than Brilliant Stars, even though Brilliant Stars has a higher chase card. Now, speaking of higher chase cards, the Machamp has had a rough month, but it might start to be finding some support. These are the videos which help us identify these support lines. We have done this. I can't tell you how many times we have seen a card reach a strong support line. We call it out, and then in the months ahead, we see a very strong bounce. And again, there's no guarantees. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with this Machamp card, but you do see that it has come down over the last 3 months from a $134 price point. It's worked its way all the way down. Now it's at $118. Could be lower by the time you watch this, or it could be higher. But it could be finding support right at the $120 range. And you see it's finally starting to tail off and flatten off a little bit right there. So I would not be surprised if it finds some support there. And then again, I do think in a couple years, once we're even farther into Scarlet and Violet, and once Sword and Shield is even further in the rearview mirror, it'll be interesting to see what these alt art cards do. Sword and Shield is an amazing era, which a ton of people love. It brought a ton of people back into the hobby. Put the pandemic aside, I know that's what drove a lot of people in, but the awesomeness of Sword and Shield is what kept people in the hobby. And these alt arts are super special. So I think watching a card like this over the long run is going to be really, really fascinating to see how it performs. The next one right here, we got Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies. This is like, this is my favorite slide every month when we do this. Fusion Strike is my favorite set. I'm a huge Gengar fan. I share that with you guys all the time. Absolutely love the Gengar. Love Fusion Strike as a whole set. The Mew cards in there are all, just everything about Fusion Strike I love. And then Evolving Skies, obviously that's the big set from the Sword and Shield era, and what really jumped off the page at me was the strong price jump we see in the Moonbryon right there, okay? So we see the Moonbryon is up at almost $1,000. It's at $980. Now, I will tell you this, there's no guarantees, so please don't take it to the bank, but it'll be interesting to watch. We have at times in the past when you see a big chase card spike in value like that, sometimes the booster box follows suit. Usually the single card goes first and then the booster box follows after. So the Evolving Skies booster box at that $700 range, it's been holding that for quite a while. So I don't know how high it will spike. I don't know if it will spike, but I just wanted to call that out because the Moonbryon had a very, very strong month. Now, the other thing that's interesting about Evolving Skies, and you've heard me talk about a lot, is, you know, if you go to, say, Pokedata.io and you look at all these different sets from all the different eras, there are not a lot of sets that have multiple. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 cards over $200, and Evolving Skies has 4 of them right now. Now, you'll see that outside of the Rayquaza and the Moonbryon, there's some regression, right? The number 3 card is down 7%, the number 4 card is down 9%. So that $200 for a raw Pokemon card in ultra modern like Evolving Skies, even though it's the big set, it's a big price point. It just is. So it's going to be interesting to see if Evolving Skies can kind of buck that trend and hold multiple cards over that $200 threshold. But these are always lessons and learnings and things that I'm trying to ingest as I'm looking at all the data that I do here on the channel. Now, the other thing that I thought was really cool is, remember, I just talked about support lines. And last month we talked about how Gengar had been holding right at that $300 mark. Well, just like we saw with the Giratina, which is spiking up, the Gengar had a very strong month too, up 4%. That's nothing to shake a fist at when the whole Fusion Strike lineup is down 3%. So when you look at that right here, the Gengar has a very, very strong, really from September 7th all the way on, it's been performing pretty strong right there. So again, I don't know what's going on with these alt arts. I don't know if we're finally past the phase of them kind of getting over the FOMO, and then they settled on these new support lines, and now people are starting to come back in because, as I said, Sword and Shield's getting a little bit older. We'll just have to wait and see, but I do love this card bouncing up, and the artwork is just stunning. Like, again, I love the Giratina, love the Moonbryon, love this Gengar, so I think there's just some awesome upside here in the long run. Now, next ones we're looking at, Chilling Reign and Battle Styles. And the Chilling Reign, I don't know, is Chilling Reign's coming to an end? Is it finally starting to regress a little bit? You know, when you think about the lineup of Chilling Reign, the artwork is absolutely nuts. It is ludicrous how awesome the artwork is in Chilling Reign, but it does lack some of the name brand recognition. You don't have your Pikachus, your Evolutions, your Charizards, right? Like, you don't have some of those big names. You don't have Gengar. Like, I could go on and on and on about what's not in Chilling Reign. However, what it does have is a whole lot of hype around it. A whole lot of people love that set. And as I said, it does have some incredible artwork, but we've been saying for a while, like, does Chilling Reign, is the artwork alone enough to hold the value of this set for the long term? This was the number 2 most expensive booster box for a long time, up until Lost Origin has finally leapfrogged it. So this will be really interesting, and this will be a huge lesson for me if Chilling Reign starts to slow down and we start to see some of these other sets, you know, kind of heat up. Brilliant Stars, again, I mean, if I look at the lineup of Brilliant Stars, I think the artwork of Chilling Reign is better, but I think the artwork of Brilliant Stars is still really good, and the star power in Brilliant Stars is much better. So who knows? It'll be very interesting to track this over the long run. And then Battle Styles, I did a comparison the other day. If you look at the top 5 cards versus Battle Styles versus the top 5 cards of some of these other big sets like Brilliant Stars, right? Like Astral Radiance, like Silver Tempest, the total value of the top 5 cards in Brilliant Stars is more valuable than all of those sets. It was absolutely wild to look at. So Brilliant Stars has kind of been flying under the radar. Matter of fact, that was one of my call outs. I said, hey, this is still a booster box that is sub MSRP. And at least from a value perspective, the top 5 cards stack up with any of the top 5 cards around there. So in my mind, there's only 2 things that could happen, okay? Either the booster boxes are going to start to gain momentum and they're going to start to go up in price, or the single card prices are going to come down. And if you look right here, outside of the Sleepy T-Tar at the very top, you know, those top 5 cards, they are coming down. So I don't know what's going to happen long term. It's still too early to tell, but those are the only 2 possible outcomes for me. And I do love the opportunity to buy a booster box with alt arts in it at below MSRP this late into the game. I mean, Battle Styles is an old set. Well, not an old set. It is a older set towards the beginning of the Sword and Shield era. And again, we're in Scarlet and Violet year 2. So really cool to be able to pick that up. And there is some awesome artwork in there, right? Now, as I said, looking at Chilling Reign, looking at the cards up at the very top, this is the 6-month graph for the Kickin' Chicken up here, okay? So you see, it spiked up to $400, and that's crazy to think that this card from Chilling Reign was at $400, and I love the artwork, and I think this is a very, very special card, but you see, ever since that $400 mark, it's been working its way back down. It's down to $275 right now. Now, over the last 6 months, it is still up 17%, and it does look like that graph is starting to smooth out a little bit, so I don't know if it's going to find support at 275. I don't know if it's going to hit that 250 mark, right? We talk about support lines have a tendency to be in these round numbers, and 250 feels like a nice round number, so we'll have to see. We've seen some of the earlier bigger alt arts that we talked about. We're seeing Gengar bounce, we see Giratina bounce. You know, I don't put Blaziken on the same level as them, so we'll just have to see what happens, but something to keep an eye on. Chilling Reign, I'm going to be keeping a very, very close eye on for the months to come, so I think it's going to be interesting to watch. The next one's right here, Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze, and as we get to the first 4 sets from from Sword and Shield, it just gets less exciting. It really does. I mean, when you look at the average of the top 20 cards in Darkness Ablaze, the average price is $4.88. And yes, you see a lot of growth there at the top, but I mean, what's a 10% growth on a $7 card, right? I mean, we're talking 70 cents here, and it just kind of goes up and down. You know, Darkness Ablaze is what it is. Yes, there's big growth, 13% month over month on the Charizard card, but it's going to be a $20-ish card for the foreseeable future. So listen, it is kind of set where it is, not a lot of excitement there. And Vivid Voltage, listen, if it wasn't for the Rainbow Pikachu at the very top of Vivid Voltage, the average of those top 20 cards would be right there in line as well. So I think it would be, you know, it would just not be that great. So Vivid Voltage, I do love that Rainbow Chunkachu. I think that that was a card which is going to be held very fondly in a lot of memories moving forward, because again, this was the set kind of like that was at the very beginning of the pandemic pump here in the Pokemon space, where people were going absolutely nuts. Vivid Voltage was like the set, and that Rainbow Chew was the card. And so when you look at it right here, this is the 1-year price graph. It's kind of been all over the place. Traditionally, it finds support right around the $100 mark. Like, we've seen it dip down to 95, but then it immediately shoots back up, and we've seen it get down to 98, and it immediately shoots back up. So the market seems to value this raw card right at $100. I like this card. I actually want to buy it in a PSA 10. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I'm waiting to find a great price on it. But I do think, again, when I'm thinking long term, I'm talking like 5-10 years down the road. I think if I can get this in like $200 for a PSA 10, I think 5-10 years down the road, the card's going to have a lot of upside, because I do think a lot of people who maybe were in the hobby, fell out of the hobby, come back to the hobby later, I think they're going to remember this card very fondly. So it's a very long play for me. Obviously, it's not an imminent buy for me, but I do think I'm going to add it to the collection, and I do think, again, long term, it's got some upside. Now, the final 2 sets right here, Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield base set with the biggest month-over-month drop. Yeah, just a lot of not fun stuff going on in Sword and Shield base set. And when you look at Scarlet and Violet base set, not a lot of fun stuff happening in there either. So kind of is what it is. You know, the Rainbow Snorlax card at the very top. Marnie used to be the #1 card in Sword and Shield, and she got overtaken by the Rainbow Snorlax. But it doesn't matter who's at the top. None of them are doing particularly well right now. And Rebel Clash, you know, these are kind of the same as I said for Darkness Ablaze. I don't expect any of these cards to grow significantly in the future. We're still going to track them. We're still going to see them bump up and down and all of this. But I don't think at any point the market is going to wake up and go, you know what? That Rainbow Snorlax from Sword and Shield, that is a fire card. Like, I want to go out and buy a ton of them. And I think this card is going to be awesome to add to my collection, and all of a sudden we see that card pop off to $100. I just don't think that's going to happen. Now, I do think the booster boxes from a rarity play, remember, these were before the pandemic pump came out and before Pokemon really started increasing their overall production. So when you look at the booster boxes, I mean, Sword and Shield booster boxes are very expensive. They're $300, right? Rebel Clash booster boxes are over $200. So there's a lot of people out there who want one of every booster box from the Sword and Shield era, and the only way to complete that set is to have one of each of these, and they were printed more than likely, we don't know actual print numbers, they were printed more than likely in less quantity than some of the more recent ones after the pandemic pump, when Pokemon was rightfully so trying to meet all of the demand out there. So we'll look at the Rainbow Snorlax because I had to pick a card to look at, and none of them are exciting to me, but you can see right here, It's up. It's maintaining some of its value over the last year. It's still up 37%, right? I mean, this was a $26, $27, $30 card there for a while. Then it popped all the way up to 50 bucks and it's been working its way back down. But it does seem to be finding support at $41. So if you're looking for a Rainbow Snorlax card, there you go. You got it right there. So listen, I love doing this video series. I hope you took some lessons from it. I love the way that we can continue this month into next month, into the month after that. We see cards, we see patterns, we call them out, we talk about them. The whole point of this video, you know, is for all of us to learn a little bit along the way. So if you found value in the content, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button. If you have questions, comments, drop them down below. And if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I appreciate you more than I can say. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.